Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome to the video I originally wanted to record. The past 2 days, I first had the Peanut stuff came out with the Swift stuff, and I want to talk about that. And then I got an idea from that video to talk about like why DVD players don't play a stream. This is the video I originally wanted to make today, before I got sidetracked into two other videos. I like making commentary because that's how my brain works. I just go, oh, hey, that sounds fun to talk about, or hey, this news came out today, I want to talk about this, and that reminded me of this thing, so I'm going to talk about this. So yeah, I had planned to make this video instead of those two, but you know, that's fine. We're here days later. But yeah, I want to talk about today about the perk of Franklin's Demise, which is a teachable perk that comes with good old Poopa, a good old Leatherface. That is kind of a controversial perk that has either been very, very highly regarded by one side and very, very heavily detested by the other. And it has been reworked several times to try and get it to a place where it's not as frustrating or painful and kind of is more enjoyable for both sides. But it still remains a very, very problematic perk and a very, very heated discussion topic when it comes to DVD players in general. And obviously, you can guess what side likes it and what side hates it. But I want to kind of break down the perk as a concept, what problems it has and why people complain about it, and what would probably be a better solution. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So Franklin's Demise, if you do not know, is a perk that if you hit a survivor, if you M1 a survivor, they drop their items. They drop their items. And while that item sits on the ground, it gradually loses its juice. It loses its charges, and over time, that item will become useless. Item will become useless. And obviously, if, you know, you don't pick it up and at some point before the end of the trial and you die or you escape, that item is just kind of left on the ground and it's gone. Gone. Completely gone. Obviously, this upsets sweatier survivors that like to bring in things like Ranger medkits, Engineer's toolboxes, brand new parts, stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, is really, really, really influential in the match because that, you know, essentially eliminates that ability to, you know, use those to advance the match in your favor. But also, this dynamically affects players who are trying to play more fun playstyles, like going for sabos or going for flashlight saves, things that do irritate the killer, but not necessarily are good for the game in the long run. Typically, if you have somebody who's just hovering around for either flashlight saves or sabos, that person is not on a gen, so they're wasting a lot of time. And like I say almost every video, time in DBD is gen time. So they're wasting a lot of time and gens are going slowly because of them specifically. That person that already had kind of committed to not doing gens as much and was just wanting to go for like a different, interesting playstyle, you smack that out of their hands and now they're just like, well, I can't even do that. I guess I just have to go do gens now. So they aren't happy either. So it's just kind of like, it's a perk that's very across the board, very, very painful to deal with for the survivors. Both survivors that want to sweat and survivors that want to have fun. It's a very, very painful perk to deal with because it just does delete your items. Now, this is where most people kind of realize that the perk is kind of in a problematic place. Because, in a sense, losing that item, like I said, when you get that item knocked out of your hand and it hits the ground, it drains its juices over time, but you technically have not lost that item if you can come back and pick it up. However, realistically, the odds of you actually coming back over and picking that up and escaping are very, very low. Especially with kill rates being higher now, most of the time you're just going to end up just losing that item. And there are a lot of very, very specific playstyles like hag traps that allow you to just kind of, you know, camp an item that you knocked out of their hands. So there's no chance you're getting that back. No chance you're getting that back. Now, I think that a lot of people obviously like, you know, I think the concept of Franklin's as a perk is fine. Because, like, if you don't want to play against items, whether they do be fun items or sweaty items, it's kind of up to you, right? That's up to you as the player. It's just like Lightborn. Like, you know, a lot of people point out that Lightborn's pointless because, you know, there's a lot of counterplay to flashlights and flashbangs. Not as much as there used to be because of the buffer, but I already made a video about that. But there is, you know, some form of counterplay to flashlights and flashbangs. But if you don't want to deal with that, if you don't want to counterplay, if you just don't feel like trying to, like, you know, bait pickups or facing walls, you can just equip Lightborn. If you really don't feel like dealing with it, you know, you do you, man. Equip Lightborn, have fun. Or you, like, do whatever. And Franklin's is kind of like theoretically in a similar spot where it's like, if you don't want to play against items, just bring Franklin's and just smack it out of their hands. And just keep them from getting it back. Like, if you want to prevent them from using items, and that's a playstyle you don't want to deal with, just bring Franklin's and call it a day. Except for one thing. And I want to point this out because I feel like this is where the perk is actually fundamentally flawed, and I actually agree with people. Lightborn, when you equip Lightborn, and you go into a match, and the flashlights and the flashbangs are useless, survivors just go back to doing gens. They kind of give up on flashlight and flashbanging you, because obviously it's impossible to. Not impossible, but, you know, I'm not going into that explanation. But yeah, it's like they get off and they start going back to the gens and they start playing different ways. They're just forced to go back and play differently. It's not that big of a deal. They keep their flashlights, and when, you know, as long as they live through that match, they get to keep their flashlight and they get to leave with it. The problem with Franklin's is that Franklin's does actually delete your items. Like, it literally does actually delete your items. Not only does it delete the charges, but, you know, often if you die, or if you don't escape through one way or another, or even if you escape without your item, the item's just gone. And you just don't have that item for the next match. I am totally on board with players not wanting to play certain playstyles and having perks that just kind of like circumvent those playstyles. Lightborn being the perfect example. If you don't want to deal with flashlights and flashbangs, that's your own prerogative, dude. That's you. You do you. You equip Lightborn, but that person gets to keep their flashlight for next match. They can have fun with someone who, you know, may be into that playstyle, may want to have more flashlights, may want to counterplay flashlights. The fact that Franklin's quite literally reaches into a survivor's blood web and just deletes an item that they bought themselves, it's just the weirdest thing for me about that perk. Because the fact that it deletes the item outright is just really, really strange to me. And I've never understood that about the perk. Because, like, the idea, like I said, the idea about Franklin's is that you don't want to play against items. That is a playstyle that you don't want to deal with. You don't want to deal with items. So you just bring a perk that allows you to knock it out of their hands, and then they don't have it anymore. That's fine. That's totally fine. That's totally good. But why do they also have to lose the item? Why do they also have to lose the item as well? Lightborn, who is a very, very similar perk, does not do that. It allows them to keep it. And you see, most people don't care about Lightborn. Most people find the perk maybe boring on one side or the other. But you don't see people going, we need to remove Lightborn, because Lightborn, honestly, is just it's just a playstyle preference. It's just a playstyle preference at the end of the day. I don't want to play against flashlights, so I just don't. But Franklin's is not a playstyle choice. It is an active choice to delete items that people have because they brought them into a match. So they don't get to bring them into another one. You are reaching into somebody's inventory. Like, here, let me bring the game up back here. That'd be like, here's a good example. It'd be like you just going over here, clicking on, you know, go into Survivor, going into my Cheryl's inventory, and just deciding, hey, this toolbox, delete. I see you have 5 of those. You can't see it there. But you have 5 of those. I'm just gonna get rid of one of those. I'm just gonna get rid of one of these. Okay, you're gonna have one less Alex's toolbox just because I said so. Because I brought a perk in the match. You spent blood points on this that you earned from a different match. You spent blood points on this that you spent from a different match. I'm just gonna go in and delete that. I'm just gonna go in and get rid of that. I'm just gonna go in and get rid of that. That would be, think about that from like the killer's perspective, right? Think about that from the killer perspective. What if there was a survivor perk that somehow, obviously I care a lot about Hillbilly, right? Care a lot about good old Billiard. What if somebody just went in and just like went into my blood web, into my Doom engravings, my engravings that I spend so much blood points on and try to constantly keep at least, like 40 at a time. I have 70 now, which is really good. But I always play with Doom engravings on Hillbilly because like that opens up so many more playstyles for him. What if somebody just went in and just like deleted some of my Doom engravings? I'd be mad. I'd be furious. Because like I work so hard to keep up those Doom engravings because they are crucial to playing this character at a better level and getting more consistent results. If there was a survivor perk that could reach in and just get rid of my Doom engravings, I'd be angry. I would never, ever be cool with a perk like that on Survivor side. I would be malding. I would be making YouTube videos out the wazoo to try to get that removed. I would hate that. But that perk exists. And call it a day. You can literally run Franklin's and do that. Reach into somebody's blood web, reach into their items, and just delete them. And that's where I take issue with Franklin's because, like, that's crazy. That's crazy that the thing that you earned from a different match, the thing you worked hard to earn from a completely separate match, can be taken away by somebody just because they have a preference of a playstyle. Like I said, if there was a survivor perk that did that to killer add-ons, it would never fly, and nobody would ever be cool with that. Like, literally nobody would be cool with that. But because it's, it's survivor add-ons and survivor items, like, okay, whatever, who cares? So I feel like a very, very, very simple tweak to Franklin's would be just have it return to your inventory after the match. That'd be very, very simple. Just treat it like a survival. Like have Heck, you could buff Franklins. You could have it like knock it out of their hands, and it depletes twice as fast. You could buff the perk, but just have it like it counts as a survive no matter what, and like you always get your item back. Because if you really want it to be the anti-item perk, like, you know, I don't want to play that playstyle, I don't want to play against items, you could do that. But it's doing more than that. And I think that's where I take issue. It's doing more than just preventing a playstyle. It is actively preventing you from playing that playstyle in other matches where people may be cool with that. And I think that's kind of boring. I think it's kind of lame. I think that sucks that any character can reach into your inventory. Reach into your inventory. Reach into your items. Reach into your add-ons post-match. That is ridiculous. That is strong. That is very, very strong. So, yeah, that would be my simple fix. It's really simple. It really is just simple. It's just, you know, maybe buff the perk and then count it as an I lived, and the item just returns to your inventory, but you just don't get to use it for that match. So yeah, that's my suggestion. But yeah, what do you guys feel about Franklin's? Do you think it's a perfectly balanced perk, or do you more on my end where you think it's kind of weird that it can reach into blood webs and essentially like remove some of your inventory? Other than that, that's gonna be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all, but I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.